Hello, and thank you for coming back to the Mix of Black Girl Magic podcast. Y'all already know my name is Mo. I am the host of the show. That rhymes, and I got time today to come and give you guys another episode. Yo, it's Mo, and I'm in here. Thank you for listening to the Mix of Black Girl Magic podcast on Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Thank you guys. Download Anchor. Today, I wanted to come and tell you guys happy Thanksgiving. We know we've got Thanksgiving coming up in a few days, and there is a lot of information going on around the holiday and how relevant the holiday is to you or your family is completely up to you, but I want to come in and talk about some of the issues that are surrounding Thanksgiving and give you guys a little bit of insight on that and try to relate it back to the source of the podcast, which is Black lesbian realness, Black lesbian magic. But whatever family or whatever type of family you have, whatever and whoever your family consists of. Of course, at Thanksgiving, it's a time to be thankful, but there is also a lot of action that can be taken surrounding this holiday, and I want to share some of that with you. First, we're going to talk about, the government and what they are doing or refusing to do in order to help people in this season and how we can kind of get involved and make ourselves relevant. So first off, we're going to share a video from AOC where you guys will hear the audio. And AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is one of the progressives in Congress who is fighting for COVID relief packages. She talked today on Twitter about how the holdup was pretty much being held up or being restricted due to Republicans trying to make it, let's say, they want to put in legislation that would not hold corporations responsible for anyone getting sick with them reopening the government. Now, we all know that's completely absurd, and we need to figure out a way to open up the government as safely as possible to keep people from contracting the virus. But most importantly, $1,200 was not enough and is not enough for anyone to live off of in a down economy, one where we are constantly trying to avoid getting sick or getting a virus. So I'm going to go ahead and cue this clip from AOC where she slams Mitch McConnell and the Republicans as they take an early vacation while millions of Americans will go hungry on Thanksgiving from COVID negligence.
Our country is going hungry. On the week before Thanksgiving, and the Senate broke. I don't care what party you are. It is an abandonment of our responsibilities as elected officials who are charged with acting in the public trust. I was surprised to hear so many Republicans now concerned about how we're going to pay for it or using other people's money. We cannot afford to wait for a new administration or another election or a political state of play. We need to get people help now, and the Senate broke. They broke. Thanksgiving is around the corner. And there are millions of Americans that won't be able to afford a meal to eat, that don't know if they'll be kicked out of their home, that are unsure if they're going to have to quit their job to care for their child. And we are having entire bodies, and the Senate prides itself as one of the most deliberative bodies. They abandon them. It is only when we are talking about relief for working people, for children, for families, for parents, for education, for healthcare, that all of a sudden we can't pay for any of these things. But when it comes to tax subsidies for private jets, we've got the money for that. When it comes to the endless appropriation towards more and more military spending, when we aren't even technically in growing elements of war, according to some people, we have money for that. So we are living in a world and a state of play in our governance where the party who is eager to help subsidize private jets somehow can't find the dollars and the cents to get people a $1,200 check. It's unconscionable, and it's wrong, and the Senate broke. So if there's anything that I have left to say, but I want to know if there's anybody out there that's listening, is that if you are a working family, if you're struggling to get the food that you need, if you feel like you are on the brink of eviction, we see you. We see you. And what I ask for the Senate, and what I ask of our Republican colleagues in the Senate, is to act as if you were the one that was going hungry. Act as if it is you getting evicted from your house. Act with that urgency.
Wow. Wow, that was extremely powerful from AOC. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is who you just heard. And she is talking about the negligence of Congress in providing aid to families in a form of a COVID relief bill. They have went to recess. And this really hits home for marginalized people because we are already struggling. As we know, we are already underprivileged in this country, and to have our elected officials further neglect us is a matter of human rights. It's a matter of equality, income equality. It is to further disenfranchise already disenfranchised people. And so I wanted to share that clip because it is so powerful that when you're thinking about Thanksgiving and when you're sitting with your family, those of us who can afford to come together or who have plans for a socially distanced Thanksgiving, you know, we have to keep in mind the millions of other Americans who do not have those luxuries afforded to them. There are millions of other Americans who are looking at possibly facing eviction soon. Imagine if and move with the urgency of you dealing with those same issues. So I wanted to bring that forward and talk about that with you guys because it is something that, you know, it's always amplified that we get together with our families, but this year has been really trying because, you know, there's the indication that, you know, we first of all want to keep ourselves and our family members healthy. The other edge of that is to think about, you know, what this year has been for everyone and how we all have had to kind of pivot and figure out different ways to connect with each other. Now, if they do provide some type of relief package, of course, it looks like it's going to be in the new year, or once there is a transition of power, where ALC really talks that, like, we can't wait for that. We need them to do something now, and yet they're refusing to do anything because I feel like they're butthurt that they lost the election. And in response to losing the election, they aren't really going to do anything for anyone. That brings me to what I really focused on for November through Solidarity and Company on Instagram, which was mutual aid and basically donating to help each other. Right now, GoFundMe is going crazy. People are posting their Cash Apps and Venmos online everywhere because it is true that we have to help each other. And they're reaching out to us, people like you and me, for help, for even, to find it in our hearts to donate $1. And so that was my initiative, to move people to submit at least $1 to a mutual aid fund, organization, or an activist charity organization over and for the month of November. I hashtagged it as the November Challenge, and to submit $1 per day, or the equivalent of $1 per day, to an organization that you choose, or to any other organization that is helping to move us forward, but also to choose to submit that dollar to a individual who you see is struggling, or to a black family, or black queer, black trans person that you see is struggling and needs, or is asking or requesting help. And I feel like we always look into that, and it's like, does this person really need help? But the answer is yes. We all really need each other right now. And I think that $1 goes a long way, especially if you share that initiative. You submit your dollar, show your proof of submitting that dollar, and your supporters or your followers, if we could get 3 of those people to do that too, we would have been able to buy this person a meal for the day, or, to go towards a fund that they've deemed necessary. So being thankful is also attached to giving. Thanksgiving is the word. And so we want to be extremely thankful for the things that we have, but I also want to urge you to find it in your hearts to give this Thanksgiving, because of the fact that our government has left millions of people out, and especially impoverished, marginalized people like black people, like trans people, like indigenous people. So the next part of this podcast, I am going to share with you a little of the Thanksgiving history as provided by the Indigenous Leadership Initiative. And we want to learn about the real Thanksgiving, the real history of Thanksgiving, and give thanks for thousands of years of indigenous people. So what Indigenous Americans can teach us about sustainability is the title of this audio that I'm going to share with you, and it also helps us to further relate to indigenous peoples who are really the creators of Thanksgiving. We want to decolonize Thanksgiving because, of course, we often get into this capitalist mindset of like, we have to buy things. We need to buy things for Thanksgiving. You got to buy the food. You got to buy the plates. You need to have your decorations up, and we're spending all this money. But on this podcast, and my goal here is to implore you to decolonize your Thanksgiving, have a more sustainable Thanksgiving. And to do that, you can donate or purchase from indigenous people. You can go right into your community and buy your fruits and vegetables at your farmer's market or local providers. We need to look into different options for this. And to have a real Thanksgiving, you would need to decolonize your Thanksgiving to have a real, what I would call to have a real thankful Thanksgiving and a real solid Thanksgiving. You want to be mindful of sustainability practices and be mindful of the indigenous people who really are credited with the holiday. So with November being National Native American Heritage Month and World Vegan Month, it is the perfect time to give thanks to the first Americans and learn from traditional and modern indigenous sustainability lessons, food systems, and environmentalism. So I'm going to cue this audio and you guys stay tuned. Across Canada, Indigenous Guardians help Indigenous communities honor their responsibilities to the land. They draw on Indigenous knowledge and science to monitor industrial development and care for the land and water.
The guardianship program is a huge step for us because it's about preserving the land and preserving culture and preserving language. It's an essential thing to our community.
A guardian acts as the eyes and ears in each respective territory. They ensure that everybody's following all the rules and regulations that are placed in all the GUI laws, our laws.
We go out and monitor tourist activities, industry activities, fisheries, commercial and sporting. We also do environmental monitoring.
A huge aspect of it is healing and getting back in touch with your Indigenous self. If there's healthy people that are happy and strong in their culture, and if they receive that from being on the land, then it's a huge investment. You're investing in a better society and a better tomorrow.
In 1973, I paddled on my own all the way down to Skungwai. All my life, I always heard it as a very strong spiritual place. There's so much brush and debris and everything all over when I got there, but it's just totally overgrown. So it took upon myself to start clearing the village, just trying to show the ancestors that somebody cared.
Our land is very important to us. We live on it, we breathe it, we work on it. It gives us life. Without it, we don't have an identity.
The best part of being a guardian is being out on the land where your ancestors have lived for many centuries, and just to reconnect with Mother Nature and how your people lived off the land.
There's a gap between the youth and the elders. By starting this program, it's trying to bridge that gap, trying to create that spark to carry on the knowledge.
We are sustaining our traditional territory not only for us, but for the whole world. Our ecosystem is so pure, we have so many trees, that we are cleaning up a lot of pollution. It means that we are here protecting Mother Earth in order for the rest of the world to live on her.
The movement to bring Indigenous Guardians to more communities is gaining ground. In 2017, Canada committed to investing in a national Indigenous Guardian network. We are proud to partner with First Nations in supporting the works of Indigenous Guardians, is a quote from the Canadian government. To learn more about Indigenous Guardians, visit ilinationhood.ca. And this was important because it is imperative to see how these people protect the land, how important the land is to them, but how it also helps to sustain the rest of the world. These lands that have been so well kept and environmentally safe is really allowing for the regeneration of forest and aiding in ending climate change. So I'm going to delve a little bit further in this topic with the next video, and then I'll give you guys a little bit more commentary and we'll go. But I really appreciate you guys listening this far. Thank you so much for tuning in. And this is really about self-restraint and personal accountability to promote healthier relationships between people, between us and the land, and to get rid of those prejudices and misunderstanding about what indigenous people mean, what Thanksgiving is really about. And it's really a fundamental of Thanksgiving for the land. You're being thankful for what they're providing, the land provides, and then giving back what the land has given to you. So keep that in mind as well as we go into Thanksgiving. And I'm going to cue the next audio.
All right. So, what is Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving is insane. It's this huge, incredible disaster on highways and airports, and it's crowded, and the weather's awful. A meal that takes days, sometimes weeks of preparation, emotional turmoil, fights. But the fact that it's a national holiday that really envelops everyone, it's a sense of the entire country in motion in a way that isn't really like any other day in American life. And the way it's corny, it's cartoonish and kitsch, is kind of a protective layer to sort of not get too direct about it. So underneath all those things, Thanksgiving is about trying to come to terms with this very difficult truth about the United States, that the country is a national project that came about at a great expense to Native people. And it's not enough that we're a good country. We kind of have to be the best country, you know. But Native people and African slavery, those two things together, are huge challenges to how you process this. So eventually the country ended up deciding, you know what, we like the story about that meal at Plymouth a long, long time ago, in which these newly arrived people from England in this new country had their brunch in the forest with Indians. And what was that saying? That was saying that we're neighborly. We want this to work out. And we know it didn't all work out. But that's what we aspire to be. That's sort of our best selves.
Did that meal actually happen?
It happened, but nobody really cared. It wasn't like, oh, remember that time last November, let's have those folks over again, fire up the grill. Nobody thought that because it was just a thing that happened. But the Pilgrim folks there, they were writing letters or writing journals. They were like really meticulously detailing what was happening. But even that written account gets lost for basically 200 years and doesn't even emerge until the 1840s when this document is discovered again. And even then, it's not a big deal. It's actually in a footnote. And we remember that, we rescue it from being a footnote because that has meaning now. And so by the early 20th century, Indians are an indivisible part of what creates the United States. It's not a chapter that happened and it was bad and we got over it. We're in your head, we're in your pantry, we're in your garage. This imagery, representations, advertising, Thanksgiving says, however imperfectly we remember Indians, we're remembering Indians. And with all the problems with it, it's still a powerful idea, and it's still powerful to not Photoshop Indians out of the national narrative. To say, we're owning this. If there's a way that can open up ways to start thinking about it differently, opens up for people to become activists and try to change things, invent some new kind of Thanksgiving. Let's have the discussion. Let's see where that goes. But before you get to the lessons, I mean, is it right to use that? Is it whatever? I don't know. I guess if I were to put myself in terms of, this a cartoon Indian and all this at Thanksgiving, I'd probably be saying I'm glad to be here. Better than the alternative.
So, wow, that was really powerful, really exciting information, because it just further proves what I'm saying. Now, right now, we're dealing with the things that we're dealing with in our country, clearly, which have nothing to do with the sentiment surrounding Thanksgiving, the purpose of Thanksgiving, or what Thanksgiving is supposed to be. We listened to and about how indigenous people are actually the foundation of the holiday of Thanksgiving, and how they continue to use their way of being gentle with the land as a part of today's society, but this started in the 1600s. The later video really emphasizes how the country was founded on the backs of indigenous people and African slavery, and that then correlates to the intersectionality of it all. When we meet at these intersections on these different holidays, we have to be mindful of those intersections, those different forms of oppression that are crossing paths during Thanksgiving, during Christmas, and how many different people celebrate in many different ways, but how this also requires us to still be active. So I want to implore you to use this Thanksgiving the hashtag Reframe Thanksgiving. How do we reframe Thanksgiving? We can do that by learning about the propagandist roots of the holiday, how they changed the imagery of Indians and use this to continue to talk about indigenous people, but not really telling the truth. So it's really complicated and contradictory, and for some of us a day of mourning, because we realize how this country was funded and came up off the backs of these communities, these underprivileged communities, and then we can connect that to today and how we're still being disenfranchised, even though we're known as a disenfranchised people, and even as those people who contribute so much to the society and to the country that is America, or that became America from what the Native Americans know as home. We can also do this by celebrating Native food sovereignty. How do we reframe Thanksgiving? We share our favorite farmers, our favorite food suppliers. We share those indigenous food providers and how we can connect with them. We donate to those communities, and we purchase from the indigenous people, putting money back into their communities because we owe them. And the same thing with Black people during Black Friday. I really wanted to hashtag Black Friday, and I probably will, because it is another idea of reframing Thanksgiving and taking some of that capitalistic thinking and the colonization of this holiday and turning it around for our good. We want to reframe Thanksgiving. Let's make it a Black Friday and really go in on those donations and contributions being put back into those communities that created this country that we are so thankful for on Thanksgiving. We want to express gratitude, and that's how we reframe Thanksgiving. We can literally go and say thank you to those indigenous accounts that you follow, or to those accounts that are imperative to the Black Lives Matter movement, saying thank you to the historians of that time period for really bringing about and giving us the truth. You know, it is often that we aren't compensated for the work that we do, but we are showing that the intersectionality of Thanksgiving is a time where we can really make change in America if we reframe Thanksgiving, if we make it a Black Friday. We can really put funds back into those communities who have lost so much, and we can do that by mutual aid, which is helping each other, which is one person making the decision or the idea to help someone else and inspiring other people to come along. And that's really the basis for Solidarity and Company. That's the basis for this podcast, to connect us all to things that we care about and show how we all are connected in an intersectional way to these different forms of oppression, or by these different forms of oppression. And as oppressed people, it is upon us to use what little extra we have to bring others to liberation. With all of that said, we want you to know that, you know, we love you, whether you choose to celebrate the day or not. We love you for your contributions to the community and for your awareness. We appreciate your gratitude, your open heart, and your open mind. Solidarity and Company, the Mix of Black Girl Magic podcast. Yo, it's Mo herself. Really appreciate you guys for being change makers, for being open to learning and contributing, to being open to doing things a different way and looking at things a different way. And so I have shared with you what I know about Thanksgiving, those resources that really were powerful to me about Thanksgiving, and how, you know, it's important for us to go and find the truth and to connect to that. Let's not forget about our Black brothers and sisters. Let's not forget about our Indigenous brothers and sisters this Thanksgiving. And then, of course, you know, with our families, we have to remember those connections there and really be the change that we want to see. And if you can have one conversation with a family member that brings them on, if you can invite someone to the November challenge, we've got a few more days left that we can make some impact. And, you know, if we could get them to follow me on Instagram, Solidarity and Company, follow me on Twitter at yeahhh. It'll all be at my website, Solidarity&co.com. You can connect with me there. And if you guys have any other ideas on how we can reframe Thanksgiving this year, let me know by connecting with me through social media. I really appreciate you guys listening to this episode. I hope you all have a happy and mindful Thanksgiving. Use the hashtag Reframe Thanksgiving. And I look forward to speaking with you all again soon, I guess I should say. Yo, it's Mo. I'm going to eat some food. I'm going to celebrate with my family. But I'm also going to be very mindful of how I can use Thanksgiving as a way to continue to help bring about real change in this country. Thank you. And until next time, bye.